Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is episode number 44 of the Sports Consiglieres podcast. My name is Jim Whalen. Along with me is my friend, my pal, the head coach of the Woodridge girls flag football team, Jerry Calla. Jerry, how you doing today?
What's up, Jimmy? You're giving me too many titles. I'm only the assistant coach for flag football.
How's the team doing? You play your
It's
first
good.
game?
Yeah, we had 2 scrimmages. We open up Wednesday. Wallington at home.
What's that? Is that 7-on-7?
7-on-7. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many girls you have playing?
We have about 16.
Okay, that's a nice.
Yeah, we thought it would be a little bit more, but it's tough. Got a good squad. We got a lot of good returning players. It's a lot of fun. Girls are eating it up. I mean, the 2 guys that I'm lucky to coach with are from the traditional men's football side, so they're doing a phenomenal job, really coaching the girls up in a lot of concepts on both sides of the ball. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that sport's growing too. I mean,
absolutely, it's unbelievable. They had their own media day this year. It's crazy at MetLife, just like the boys.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good stuff for the girls. But I had to come in here last episode 43. You had Donald Copeland on, 2 Jersey City kids talking at it. So I thought the interview was very well. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was on an assignment. You sent me on an assignment somewhere, and the place didn't exist. So that's why. So I think
I gave you a map to nowhere. But we had, like you said, Coach Copeland was on. And like we've talked previous, it was nice to really get a good insight on a mid-major. The year didn't go as expected as he would like. They kind of lost their last 2. Gave it a good go in the NEC tournament, and we look forward to speaking with him. He's had a very, very colorful career as a player. Played for St. Anthony's under legendary coach Bob Hurley, and then was part of a Louis Orr Seton Hall team that made a great run, which culminated in him into being an All Big East player his senior year.
Yeah.
And he's a gentleman, still resides in Jersey City, and like he said, his season ended, and the second it ended, he's back and hitting the recruiting trail. It never stops.
Well.
And we also got a good plug for Danino's Pizzeria out on Staten Island.
Yeah, well, and they actually,
this is 2 plugs now. So
yeah, they actually contact me and said thank you, but just getting to that, just monitoring our social media. If anybody watches this, we're on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Whalebones. Also on Instagram. Couple think the Gary Greenberg piece, I think, got the most traction out of the last couple episodes. You and I haven't spoke, like this probably since the end of the football season. So we had a bunch of guests on. We had a couple Giants,
right.
Highlighted soccer, but I thought the Gary Greenberg piece was good because everybody heard about the Jersey City boys and girls, and he recently passed away. You had a connection here. You actually brought your team there, so there was good traction on social media there. As Pat McAfee said, the gems. That's what kind of came across.
Well, again, as we both know, anybody that grows up in an urban area, you have these people. They get involved with the community and they touch so many lives. And the one thing I'll say about Coach Copeland and his family were close to Gary Greenberg. His dad, Coach Copeland, Donald Copeland Sr., is very involved with the boys club in Jersey City. But one thing that, and again, it's always easy to forget when you're from Jersey City about the rest of Hudson County. But Gary was also very influential in touching many lives, throughout Hudson County, not only in Jersey City. And often as sports people, we do forget there's another side of the coin, as they say. And like Coach Copeland pointed out, he said, Gary was involved in making sure that kids had academic success and social programs were offered. It wasn't just about, a basketball gym in the boys club. So, again, it's a shame that he passed away. It was unexpected. But again, unfortunately, guys like Gary really don't exist anymore. And, going into the future, I mean, you feel a person like Gary, you feel a loss like that is really profound in the community because, again, you talk about a selfless man, somebody that touched many lives, both, old and young. And, you don't have people like that. Like, they cut the cloth and that's, they're cut from a different cloth and then they throw the rest of the cloth out with guys like that. And, different generation and, so on and so forth. But, again, it was I would have been remiss if I didn't mention Gary, and ironically, it was good. Unfortunately, I should say, it was bad timing, good timing, if you will. We had Coach Copeland on, and Gary passed, kind of close to when we had him on. So, again, he spoke about him passionately, and I hope everybody, that watched the podcast, again, probably, took that and they have their own memories of Gary, and his memory will live on. So good
Yeah,
stuff.
well, it was a nice piece. The other thing too, just following social media, the starter jackets. I know
Oh,
you picked that up with Carl Banks,
Sergio.
my man Carl Banks. So
Yeah.
just the starter jackets are back. I got my Clemson one hanging up somewhere. So I
That's an
probably
interesting choice.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm an interesting guy. Hold on one second.
Yeah. Jimmy has left momentarily. If those of you who just observed, he's wearing yet again another new shirt from Kohl's. Now we can look in the background. He's still rocking his New Jersey Nets pennant there. His Devil's blanket.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Clemson.
Look at that.
Dirty though. It's dirty. So I got to.
That's iconic.
That's like what I was thinking about buying a Clemson starter jacket. I don't know, but I guess I got it later on in life. My parents couldn't afford a regular, so I think when I was working, I bought it. Why I got a Clemson starter jacket, I don't know. Maybe it was Eldon Campbell days. I don't know. But
here's another good one for you, right? When we talk about starter jackets. So the first time I met him is, I believe he is a classmate of yours, right? So Neil Kearns.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Neil's brother Chris had a sports store in Jersey City, All Star Sports, and growing up, it was on Bergen Avenue. The original was on Bergen Avenue, actually right by where I went to high school, Hudson Catholic. That was the original store for me. They later moved down closer to Journal Square. Anyway, that was the primo location in Jersey City to get a starter jacket. And the beautiful thing about that is, if he didn't have what you wanted or the color that you wanted, he would order it and he would get it for you. So again, shout out. I know Chris is no longer in the business. Matter of fact, I believe he had a transaction where he wound up selling the business to Chris Childs.
No kidding.
Jersey Net. I believe. I don't want to. I think that's what Neil told me a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, listen, they're good stories, but I think the reason why I got that is probably because it's unique.
Yeah, it's unique. Here's one I'm going to drop on you, Jimmy. Yeah. My first starter jacket was a Washington Bullets starter jacket. Everybody has me associated as a Knick fan, which I am. Yeah. But again, it was unique. When I was younger, I had this crush, if you will, passion to follow Moses Malone's career. And then once Bernard King went to the Bullets, they kind of had me sucked in, and I did follow the Bullets for several years.
Yeah, was it white
West
or blue?
Unseld days. Kevin Lockery to West Unseld.
Yep, West Unseld. Yep, synonymous with the Bullets. Have you watched any of the games? I know the one you mentioned Hudson Catholic. The one kid from Auburn, Pettiford, is from Hudson Catholic. You mentioned any? You watching any the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was. I am not going to lie. Me being a Georgetown guy, I was rooting for St. John's. I know that sounds very weird. Me being a Knick fan, Pitino is an ex-Knick coach. I always followed Rick Pitino's career. And again, I mean, they played brutal, against Arkansas. I mean, it was just a brutal. Listen, it's always a rough exit, of course. I mean, you can't simplify it enough. I don't want to simplify it, but hey, listen, you get knocked out of the tournament. It's rough as it is, but man, you talk about that's a crash landing. They kind of built it up with him and Calipari, who coincidentally had a tough loss last night in overtime. But again, St. John's just went cold at a very, very bad time. And I expect them to still be in the thick of things next year. I mean, he hit the transfer portal pretty hard already. He got the kid from ASU. And again, he won a championship. He won the Big East championship, and he really, has some life in that St. John's program. And again, to tie that together, why you even brought it up was when I said to Sergio when we had Sergio Wilshire on is, hey, listen, I knew St. John's is back when we saw Carl Banks, at courtside, but when we saw Carl Banks promoting, the St. John's starter jackets, and St. John's basketball is back, and I think with Coach Pitino the next few years, things are looking good. Alumni's locked in, student body's locked in, the Garden is rocking, like it should be, and I really never thought, because of maybe the way the Big East has evolved over the years, that St. John's basketball would really, really, really be close to capturing the excitement in the heart of New York City as it did in the mid to late 80s.
Well, I will say St. John's has been the story of the winter. I mean,
I agree.
Their resurgence. I mean, I've been watching more St. John's games than anything else. And
Right.
Obviously with Seton Hall kind of only winning 7 games this year. I mean, I was locked in with St. John's, and like having Willie Glass on, and Simeon Wilcher's dad Sergio. I was locked in, and I had them going to the Final Four. They probably played their worst game against Arkansas. Yeah, so I mean, Arkansas is a good team. They had them beat. I just thought head to head, Pitino would have figured Cal out, but that wasn't the case. But just a couple interesting transactions about coaches in the Big East. Sean Miller goes to Texas. That's open. And Richard Pitino is rumored being the Xavier coach, and also the old.
I believe they finalized that, right?
Did they finalize that deal?
I believe they finalized that.
Yeah,
right,
so that'd be
interesting. And again, that's a great story. He goes up against Dad now.
Yeah, I'd be following son. And listen, they won a game in the tournament, and they look good. He seems to be like an accomplished coach. Had a couple stops. I know Minnesota. Now he's at New Mexico, which is always a good like mid-major. They play.
Yeah, he paid his dues.
Yeah. So and then Villanova was the interesting one. I was surprised that they let go of Kyle Neptune as quick as they did, but I mean, I guess replacing Jay Wright with 3 national championships and having 43, the kid who I think scored 2,000 points on Dixon. I guess they fell short. I guess there was a change, but I mean, Kevin Willard is rumored to be the head coach there. So it was interesting times last 48 hours with his press conferences. I think we talked off camera on that. Do you think he goes to Maryland? What do you think the word on the street is with Kevin
Jimmy,
Willard?
listen, we just like we mentioned previously, I mean, I've never seen a team that made the Sweet 16 that unfortunately the story was off the team. And again, did Kevin really bet? I mean, again, you talk about, is it about Kevin? I guess it is about Kevin. I mean, I know him and the AD, have had some problems, but I mean, like Tony Soprano used to say, why do you have to air out your dirty laundry in public? I mean, it really took, I think, listen, they got beat soundly, but I just think it really just took away from what the kids accomplished, and that's a shame. Does he go? I don't know. I mean, he says he's going to be signing an extension. I believe they had framework in place, but I mean, again, you hate to say this, but do you really trust anybody? Nick Saban, as much as I love him, he was still going to be with the Dolphins. Bob Petrino, left the Falcons, in the middle of the night there. So
I mean, Jimmy Johnson was the coach. I think at Oklahoma State was recruiting Barry Sanders, and then took the Miami job. So it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, it's been going on forever. I mean, that's just the way I guess the nature of the beast, the way they do business. I mean, Kevin's got a good thing going at Maryland. I mean, again, we talked about this. It all comes back to this, right? What is Villanova's NIL program, right? Or the question could be, what could Kevin Willard do if he goes to Villanova as far as expanding their NIL program? Because let's face it, he probably has a good situation now at Maryland, even with, so many kids, moving on. So I don't know. Does he take it? I have that one going 50-50.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a toss-up. I mean, I think the AD's got one foot out the door, but he also added out his grievances that he wanted to stay in New York. They didn't have the budget. Right. It is a state school. It's not like a school like St. John's where even Patino said Mike Rapoli, if he needs money, he just goes to Rapoli where you have a donor. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but some of these programs are NIL, and I think that you're going to see a switch to a lot of the bigger schools unless they have like a Rapoli where you could dish out some money. But that's what I found interesting about your conversation with Donald Copeland, is that here's a kid. He's not recruiting high school kids. I found out that was shocking. So he's either getting kids on the way up or on the way down, but he's getting college
Right.
kids in, and he's got like 6, 7, 8 kids that already entered the portal. So I mean, it's just strange time. The NCAA doesn't seem like the NCAA is going to litigate any of these NIL deals or anything else. It seems like this is going to be so. Another rumor was talking about, was the Big East merging with the ACC. So are we going to get these power conferences going where the smaller schools are? It's going to be two different tiers of programs. So could you see the Big East and the ACC merging? Do you think that's a possibility? Reunite Boston College, Syracuse, and Pitt?
I mean, listen, here's the thing. Was that really a credible rumor, or is that something that Rick Pitino said in passing? Pitino mentioned that. I don't know how much traction that's getting. It would be an interesting concept. Obviously, it would be great for basketball. But, again, you get into I had this conversation earlier with somebody about high school athletics and the difficulties of travel now with the bus situation for high school athletics in New Jersey. And just to correlate that I think when it comes to college athletics, that's a big thing, is that when you like when Rutgers went to the Big Ten, everybody loved it. Rutgers football in the Big Ten. But there was so many sports programs that were cut because they weren't going to pay, name the sport, whatever, to go to Michigan to compete. Whatever, the jousting team, whatever, like a lower level, not publicized sport, which is still important to the athletic department. And that's what I think is the issue, is when you get into these mergers, the travel is a big thing. Football and basketball would take care of itself, but you're not going to put people on, unfortunately, you're not going to put people on a plane to go far, to swim or whatever. I mean,
after a while, it's a tax. It's a tax.
It's taxing on the university.
Bob Knight said that when Penn State came in. He's like, all right, yeah, the football, basketball team, but what about our other sports?
Right.
There's travel involved. I mean, Mick Cronin said that, during the season, being involved with the Big Ten, he's got to go east how many times, and the other teams are coming out to L.A. So
he had me laughing, by the way. He was very sour after obviously losing, but then he was even more sour when he started talking about his flight back home, how he wasn't looking forward to it. Yeah. I was just picturing like the plane from Major League with the duct tape on the wing. But again, it's a big thing. I mean, most people look at it like, arenas, stadiums, football, basketball, but there's much more to it involved. And again, I think I don't see that happening anytime soon, but always fun to talk about.
Well, I think the bigger story, I think we'll probably, this will be our last topic of the show, is off-season signings and the upcoming draft. So the Giants
go right to the NFL.
Yeah, exactly, right to the jugular. So the
NFL never ends.
Yeah. Well, actually, who do you like in the NCAA tournament going back?
I'm going to go with it was funny because as much as I criticize our producer Dave about being a Cowboy fan, he asked me this several weeks ago when I was talking up St. John's, and his response was talking up Florida, and I think that's where I'm going to, if I was a gambling man, which I am not, I would put all my eggs in the Gators basket.
Yeah, well, they look good. I mean, they look good. That's the last thing. I mean,
you always got Duke. I mean, I know that a lot of people, they don't like Duke in a big spot because, you get into all the stats and the numbers. Duke has had the most blowout wins, yada, yada, yada. But I still think Duke is going to be, playing for several weeks now, if not until the end.
Yeah, well, that kid's legit, Flag.
Yeah.
Cooper Flag. And he's Derek Queen's teammate. So, I mean, legit. But
why Cooper Flag's playing well? He was recently given a Red Bulls jersey.
No kidding, really?
Yes. From someone on the Red Bulls who went there.
No kidding.
Who went to
and guess who else? Guess who else is wearing it? You're wearing a Red Bulls jersey too.
That's right. Big game. Listen, right here, this hoodie, right, is for Pat Monahan, who criticized you and I for doing not one soccer episode, but doing 2 soccer episodes back to back. So this is for Pat. New York Red Bulls tomorrow, 2:30 at New England, taking on the Reds.
I'm surprised Pat would have anything to say. So docile. He's usually kind of
Yeah. Pat's never known to voice his opinion. He's still digesting the 3 chicken buckets that he ate yesterday at the Yankee opener.
Yeah. Well, I think he went to the Yankee,
which went well. A little like we were talking, a little rocky in the 9th inning there, but you know.
Yeah, he went to the game yesterday, but he's living a life. Good for Pat. So
yeah. But anyway, back to the NFL. I mean, you know, I didn't believe it when I first read it. Jameis Winston was signed by the Giants, 2 years, $8 million, which is considered obviously a backup quarterback's salary contract, if you will. I didn't know where the Giants were going to go. I really didn't think they were going to sign Rodgers. I know they were, they had both feet in the pool. They were in for Rodgers. I didn't think that was going to be a reality. And I always thought when free agency started that they were going to end up with Russell Wilson. I really think this draft still has a lot of questions. So now the Giants have Russell Wilson, they have Jameis Winston, they have DeVito under contract, and I believe the funny thing is for this coming season, the Russell Wilson / Winston contract is almost equal for dollar for what Daniel Jones signed with the Colts. So where I'm going with that and why I alluded to that is the Giants. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, are they going to take Sanders? What's going to happen if they take Sanders? The bottom line is that these contracts didn't get the Giants in further salary cap hell or whatever. So they're friendly, salary cap friendly deals for the organization. Wilson has a tremendous amount of incentives built in, and to be honest with you, I don't think the Giants would be all that unhappy if they had to pay him those incentives, because most of those incentives are reaching obviously certain milestones, reaching the playoffs, winning the playoff game, so on and so forth. What does that do for the Giants in the draft? I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I think all indications are Ward is going 1 to the Titans. I don't think anybody knows, and all the pundits can say what they want. I don't think anybody knows, and there's a reason why this team, I know the Giants haven't been great in a long time, but there's a reason why the Browns are always picking high. I don't think anybody really knows what they're going to do. Could they pass on Sanders? Absolutely. Could they take Carter? Absolutely. Could they trade for Dak Prescott, which I know there's some whispers out? That wouldn't surprise me either. You never know what Cleveland is going to do. There were rumors that Dion was going to persuade, is the word I'll use, for them not to take his son. I really don't know what the Giants are going to do with that third pick in this aspect. They got Wilson. I think the plan is for Wilson to start the season. Winston is a backup. Okay. DeVito was probably going to, I want to say he's out of options for the practice squad. I don't know about that, but whatever. If they take somebody, I really don't think they're going to take Sanders. I really don't.
Well, for me, I think it'd be career suicide if you're Dable or if you're Joe Shane, because I mean, if they're not playing well, then the New York media is going to pick it up and say, well, when is Dion going to be the head coach? So that's always going to be the echo in the back. So I think that, you take Sanders, you're going to get, prime time. So that's always going to be a possibility. And I don't think anybody wants to go down that rabbit hole.
I mean, again, what's weird about that is that, there's a lot of people are still predicting Sanders to go to the Giants. And then again, I've seen Sanders dropping to the Saints. Now the big story today is how much time, the Giants spent with Dart. I mean, again, listen, I think a lot of times this stuff is overblown, right? A general manager, a coaching staff, a scouting department, wouldn't be doing their job if they weren't spending time, right, with certain guys. And quarterbacks, as make or break your organization. So it behooves them to spend a lot of time. The Giants spent a lot of time with J.J. McCarthy. Okay, they thought that they were going to make a move for him. So you never ever know. I mean, I think the $1 million question is, you bring in Wilson, you got Winston, and let's say if you did draft Sanders, Sanders sits the whole year. I don't see that happening. When do you make that switch? You know, is that going to be good with Wilson? I just don't see it. To me, the move that makes sense is they're bringing in Wilson because they were told by ownership that they have to see tangible progress, right? They bring in Wilson thinking that, you know, he obviously they're going to win some games. They have Winston to be his backup. Maybe they take a guy like Dart, the kid from Alabama, whoever the case, who's a little bit more of a project. You can't take Sanders at 3 and have him sit the whole year.
No, and you're not going to trade
To be
Wilson.
honest with you, me personally, I'd rather have him go as early as possible, which it would have made more sense that they were going to take Sanders at 3 if they didn't sign Russell Wilson. Because to me, they didn't sign Russell Wilson, right, to be a quarterback for 5 games. Now, again, you draft somebody, okay, just like Wilson, if you remember when he was drafted, right, nobody thought he was going to be who he was, and he beat out the competition. That's a good problem to have. You can't obviously predict that. But the Giants didn't sign Russell Wilson for him to be displaced after 3 or 4 games.
No, I mean, I like the signing. I mean, he won a Super Bowl in the stadium. So
right.
I think for most of these aging athletes, they want to come to New York because it gives them an opportunity to be access to the New York media, and they have a second life. You look at so many Giants that came to New York, and then next thing you know, they're on a football station. So I think that there's an end game. I mean, you saw Winston down at the Super Bowl asking some off. Comedic,
he's an entertaining individual to say.
Yeah, so I mean, I really don't have a problem with either signing. I think Winston's a backup, but he's a serviceable backup. You know, I think Wilson's gonna start. But where were they going to draft? I don't think they just sign a bunch of wide receivers. So, you know, if they do draft Hunter, it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. And you know, I know they're sure with their kicking game, but you know, where do they go in a draft? What do you think the needs are?
I think if I had a, you know, we're getting to the end of March right now. I just think that, in my opinion, there's too much pressure on the Browns to pass on Sanders. You know, they need a quarterback. At 3, the Giants take Carter from Penn State. You never have too many pass rushers. I think defensively, the Giants are going to be solid. That will give, by taking Carter, who is, like Hunter, considered a generational talent, that will further put pressure, if you will, on Thibodeau to produce, and the Giants could really assess what they want to do with Thibodeau, you know, after the season before they have to pay him, you know, what an edge rusher is worth. I think they take Carter. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean,
at some point, they'll come back. They'll swipe a guard. They'll probably swipe a tackle, another offensive lineman. They'll probably swipe another linebacker. I like what they have done. We're not going to really get into it now because I think, you know, we can really delve into this. We'll save that for another show down the road. I really like what they did on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. I think they're going to be really, really good on the defensive side of the ball. You know, offensively, I think they're going to be better. But here's the thing, right? No matter what the Giants do, the Giants have a lot of question marks. You know, they were before they got Wilson, they were projected to win 3.5 games. Now I think it's more like almost 6 games after Wilson. The Giants' schedule, the division is brutal. Okay, we know that, but their schedule for a team that had such a bad year, if you look at their schedule is absolutely brutal. And I'm gonna just to emphasize this point, I'm gonna pull it up because, you know, if you didn't know any better, I mean, you know, here's the thing, and we're gonna go through this, Jim, real quick. Okay, so for 2025, okay, they're home against Dallas, Philly, and Washington, as we all know, right? Then they have Green Bay, Kansas City, the Chargers, Minnesota, and the 49ers. Okay, so out of those games, right, the 49ers, right now, can the Giants beat the 49ers?
I don't think so. With
Minnesota,
McCaffrey,
playoff team. Chargers, Kansas City. To be honest with you, I have them maybe winning one out of the divisional games just because to take to play the odds, if you will. Green Bay, Kansas City, Chargers, Minnesota, San Francisco. Then you flip it to away. You have Dallas, Philadelphia, Washington, obviously, Chicago, Denver, Detroit, the Raiders, New England, and New Orleans. So again, you look at that schedule, there could be a situation where not only they don't win a divisional game again, maybe they win one home game. Right? Maybe they do beat Washington, right? Or they do beat Dallas at home. One of them. They're not beating both of them. Okay. They lose to Green Bay. They lose to the Chiefs. They lose to the Chargers. They lose to the Vikings. They lose to Sport. Maybe they win 2 games at home. Then you go to away. They're not going to win at Dallas. They're not winning at Philly. Maybe they lose to Washington. Maybe they beat the Bears. All right, now we're at 3 wins. They're not going to win at Denver. They're not going to win at Detroit. Maybe they beat the Raiders. Right now we're at 4 wins. Patriots and New Orleans, they split that. That's 5 wins.
Yeah. So they got to steal a win somewhere to get that 6 wins.
To get to that 6th win.
And
barring obviously, somebody, Daniel's going down or, whatever. But it's for a team where I'm going with this, for a team that's in a rebuild, coming off a disaster of a year where they started the year when they still thought that they had their quarterback, to play 4 quarterbacks, one of them being Tim Boyle. Okay. And just to have a miserable year where, of course, they had to beat the Colts, because I think if they don't beat the Colts, the conversation we're having right now is a lot different. And Russell Wilson is not a giant, but still to come into another rebuilding year, that's tough sledding.
Yeah.
That schedule is very, very, and I'm not making excuses already, but I think the Giants have in free agency, they have improved. They have improved on the defensive side of the ball. But with that being said, is that gonna correlate into wins? I don't think so. Or I don't think as many as people maybe think.
Yeah. Well, I think they need a running game, and I think they need a tight end option. So they re-signed.
Again, Theo Johnson from Penn State was on that way. He was on his way. He was starting to develop, improve. He got injured.
Yeah, well, that's
he
true.
had a good year.
That's true.
The question is the line. They go as far as Andrew Thomas goes. Andrew Thomas got hurt again, and that's when things really, really, really went south. Besides inconsistent quarterback play, but again, right now, if they win 5 games, okay, and Russell Wilson plays the whole season and he plays well and they're competitive, and I don't think they're going to get blown out in these games. I really don't. I think they're going to be competitive, but I'm talking, as Parcells used to say, your record is what it says you are, what it is. And if they win 5 games and they're competitive, and maybe at the end of the year, they have somebody like Dart on their roster and he plays, a few games, does that buy this regime, more time? I have no idea. Yeah, because I never heard an owner, or I should say, it's not common that an owner tells his general manager and head coach after winning 3 games, knowing you have no quarterback, right, that he wants to see significant improvement. So if you look at the way Joe Schoen has managed free agency, he obviously is spending, okay, like he's obviously fighting for his job for 2025. What that means, how many games does he have to win? I really don't know. Like I said, if they win 5 and they're competitive, in a lot of these games, and I don't know. As Mike Greenberg, I think, has a good phrase with the contradicting communication. Yes, guys, please draft a franchise quarterback. But by the way, I'm expecting a significant improvement in 2025. What does that really mean? You have to usually have one goes without the other. Either we're going to have significant improvement, and then in the next breath, the owner is talking about, draft your franchise quarterback. And obviously anybody knows with playing a rookie quarterback, minus very few situations, Daniels, whatever. there's going to be growing pains. So time will tell.
Yeah, well, maybe they drafted Milrow and Sheldon for the year, just to get
Yeah.
a year experience. So, and they have Winston as insurance, so this way, if
Well,
somebody does
Winston
go down,
Winston is good. I think when you start pounding the pavement, if you will, Wilson's a year. To see what you can salvage. Basically, I guess out of your salvage your employment with the New York Giants. I guess you have Winston for 2 years. I'm okay with that. And obviously, I think like most people, I think there's a lot of ways that this draft is going to go. It's going to start at pick number 2. And of course, the NFL got what it wanted. We're in March, and we're still talking about, professional football. Professional
yeah,
football is really a 12-month year operation. I know
yeah,
you can make that
so
argument about other sports, but I mean, football is just, dominates
yeah,
the headlines, if you will, even when it's not supposed to dominate the headlines. Here we are. Opening day was yesterday, and we're talking about the Giants.
yeah, exactly. Well, listen, you got 162 games to talk about baseball, so you know what they do on opening day doesn't matter for the Yankees. The Yankees won, but
Don't tell Pat Monahan that.
yeah, exactly.
You're
So
going to get a nasty gram.
yeah, well, he goes through you, so he doesn't
Yeah,
know
that's what it is.
So
And by the way, we had another former colleagues of mine and yours, Cantoneri, Pasculi, and Palermo were. I think it was. I told them it was an illegal call. There was 4 of us on the call, so it's way too many Italians.
yeah.
Pasculi was trying to pump me for information about St. John. So,
Well, I think they like the name of the podcast. That's
oh,
why
that's
they.
what it is too. Yes, that's
So
correct.
it drew him in. So like, what is
Yeah.
this? So, but anyway, I'm glad to see Scooch is alive and well. So,
Yes.
but
Always
we'll take it.
entertaining, as you know.
Yeah. Well, if you want to take this home, you have any parting words, or is that you said what you know, all you need to say?
Hey, listen, you got a good weekend of sports as we sit here on I believe we're at March 28th. You got a good weekend of sports. You got the rest of the Sweet 16 tonight. And you got game 2 of the Major League Baseball season on Saturday on tomorrow. So and the weekend you got baseball. Hopefully baseball ushers in the new weathers and
And this summer you have soccer, right? You have the what's the tournament at MetLife? What's the
oh,
is
you
it
got that's the World Club tournament. So you have some good matches. They're actually all throughout the United States, but
yeah.
so
So
and another story that I'll mention, and this is for our guy Eric Stover, who we had on real quick. The other day, there's a soccer team called the Oakland Roots who plays in the USL, and they set the USL record for attendance. Okay. It was like I'm throwing it out there. It's close to 27,000 at the Oakland Coliseum, and that's a big deal. That's the type of situation where Eric Stover is talking about a team that is really, really, really in touch with its community, which is Oakland. And I know Oakland, unfortunately for them, they are professional sports starving. With the A's and the Raiders going bye-bye. But that's very impressive. And that's when we had
yeah,
Eric Stover on a few episodes ago. He was talking about his team is going to be, which is going to play in Patterson and historic Hinchcliffe Stadium. They're going to be basically, making ground, if you will, or trying to make ground in the professional landscape of U.S. soccer, which a lot of people feel is dominated by the MLS. There are other people that feel that there is a market besides MLS. USL will be offering certain things that MLS doesn't. But it's a great story. The team is the Oakland Roots. It was like 27,000. Very impressive for a USL game. And again, you can make the argument that that's just a market that is not oversaturated, if you will, professional sports. But kudos to the Oakland Roots, their players, their fans, and their staff. But I think the point I'm trying to drive home when we had Eric on Eric Stover was making it clear that he wanted his new professional soccer team to be in tune, lockstep with the community. And the Oakland Roots are in lockstep with the Oakland community. So good for the residents of
Yeah,
Oakland.
and
They
he's
have
on
someone to
LinkedIn.
root for.
He's on LinkedIn, and he put that on LinkedIn. I did see that, so
Yes.
it had to be good for him.
Yep.
But I think Jerry, we'll pick it up next week again. So this is episode number 44. Feel free to look us up on Chop Sports Media on YouTube. Special thanks to our producer, Dave Sturcio, Chop Sports Media. If you're looking for podcasting, and also if you're into wrestling, he's out at an event at the Summer War at the Shore 2. So on the wrestling scene. So look up Dave on social media. Also look for us on social media. I'm on X at Whalebones. And also Sports Consiglieres is going to be at Instagram and Facebook. Jerry, you have any parting words?
Now, is there any truth in the rumor that you and Dave are going to form a tag team?
No
It's
truth.
not. That would make it. You guys would make a good tag team. I mean, he's told you, so that would be like a good.
This is your producer speaking. The rumors are true. Jim, get ready.
All right.
Dave, here's the question. I think
it's going to be midget wrestling. All right.
Say again, Jerry.
Jimmy would have to be in like a colorful mask. I think would really, really add to the intrigue.
Oh, absolutely. We'll set it all up.
The masked superstar is returning. Jim Whalen.
Yeah, the masked superstar. Yeah, on the underground.
My parting words is Jimmy again. Another great episode. Another great shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Very happy to see that. I like
to build you up. I think we're coming up to a year anniversary of Sports Consiglieres podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been a great run, Jerry.
How many? I mean, what? This was episode what again?
44. Reggie Jackson, right?
Yeah, scary. 44.
So it goes by quick. So I enjoy doing it. Jerry enjoys doing it. It's been a good tag team. So we'll have more guests.
Episode 50, we'll have to have somebody really good on.
Yeah, maybe we'll have Dave come on. And
maybe go. There we go.
So, but anyway.
All right, Jimmy. Good stuff, brother.
All right, episode 44 in the books. Good afternoon, everybody, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, whatever you're watching. Take care.